Welcome back, everybody. Dicko,
There
Mole.
you go, mate.
What a week of footy. Origin finished. New South Wales up 1-0. Queensland very much second fiddle for most of that game. Um, Look, let's briefly touch on it. What were your thoughts on the match? Did Queensland just not show up, or were New South Wales too good?
Too good. New South Wales. Queensland got dominated, I reckon, physically.
Yeah, the bottom line for me, I agree with all that. I just thought it was a really flat Origin game, and I don't know if you guys were there, but Suncorp was just eerily quiet because there were, the best part of 35,000 Broncos, Broncos fans, Maroons fans in the crowd, and their team just didn't turn up. They didn't show any fire. They didn't show any muscle. There wasn't a single bloke cited after Origin. I can't remember the last time we've had an Origin game without a bloke cited. They didn't kick the Spencer when they should have. Maybe that would have got someone in trouble. But yeah, it just wasn't the Queensland team we're used to, and it was just a flat game. And I didn't think New South Wales were all that good either. They had a couple of good players, and that was all they needed.
I reckon Klein refed both teams out of the game, personally. I thought it was ordinary display
Don't
of
get me started
officiating.
on Klein.
No, I knew you'd
Do
love
not
that, Molly.
get me started.
I knew you'd love that. But I thought, honestly, I think there was 21 infringements. So you include 6 agains and penalties. All right. So there was 21 all up for an Origin game. And to me, that's just unacceptable in an Origin. You got the best of the best playing there, and you got 21 stoppages or 15 stoppages, and then what was it, 7 6 agains, which I thought was.
And about 15 of them were in the first 20 minutes.
And I thought, what summed it up is I thought the To'o sin bin was. I mean, I would have been happy for him to stay on. I'm a Queensland supporter, but I would have been happy for him to stay on the field.
Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous. Like, you played at real speed. There's two blokes going up for the ball. There's arms, legs everywhere. One arm happens to touch him on the chest, and he's straight in the bin. Just ridiculous.
I mean,
that was, of course, the bunker, not Klein,
Yeah,
but just
true.
ludicrous.
I could have handled a penalty try and him staying on the field though, Molly.
Yeah, well,
ordinary.
at least there wasn't too many injuries come out of the game, but post game, we do have a couple of conundrums for Queensland and New South Wales. Poor Mitch Barnett, ACL over the weekend. Yeah, what do you think's going to happen there with New South Wales? Who's going to come in and replace him?
Well, I think Utai Kamanu, wouldn't it be? He was in the squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it was me, it'd either be Terrell May, who should have been there from the start, or Kalamatangi from South. To me, they're the two standout forwards in the comp, just about, who were from New South Wales. Yeah. And why they weren't there the first time, they do a lot more damage than Ukamanu, I can tell you that.
Well, it caused a bit of a ruckus obviously Laurie Daly had a plethora of players to choose from in that first game. If he all of a sudden doesn't go with Utakamanu and then have Max King in the starting lineup, and Utakamanu come in over the bench and opts to pick a Terrell May or opts to pick a Keon Kolomatangi, does that reflect poorly on Laurie Daly as a coach, or?
No, I don't think so, because I think each game's individually selected, right? I think, and because there's 2 games of footy that's got to be played between each game. So, I mean, anything can happen. I mean, Utai Kamanu could go.
Well, still got to get through this weekend.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, I think I effectively just think they just repick. I mean, obviously some players are going to be picked that are just locks, but they repick a squad for that game at the end of that last round because injuries and Mitch Barnett, So I don't think it's just necessarily I think if he was fit and available, I'd be surprised if Utai Kamanu didn't play, purely because he was in the squad. But I could also get behind Terrell May, as Moley said, and Kalamatangi. So I think either of them. I reckon it could be a 3-way shootout. Whoever plays the best out of those 3 this weekend will probably get, provided all 3 of those teams are playing, will probably get the gig.
Yeah, I just worry
he has the USO to pick him.
Well, look, Terrell May said it himself, didn't he? He wasn't picked because of his name, and I tend to agree. And I think they'll brush him again. He's been playing great football all year. He's been probably playing better than the other guys in a team that struggles to win games. So I don't know what more he can do, really.
I think they'll brush him all series, Molly. I think it's more.
Agreed.
I think it's more if they go back and select him now, they're kind of admitting they made a mistake in game one, and I don't think they'll do that.
Yeah, and it's an unwritten rule in Origin, isn't it? If you win the first game, you pick the same guys for the second game, whoever's available. So
Pretty much, yeah.
they'll just pick a replacement for Barnett, and anyone else who gets hurt. No one's going to get dropped. Even if they have a shocker this weekend, it's just the way Origin works.
Well, Queensland, on the other hand, I can see 5 or 6 changes. Now, whether that is positional changes in terms of within the 17 or actually guys coming in, I can see about 5 or 6.
Well, let's talk the big change. Are they going to get rid of DCE and put Tom Dearden in there? But both of them played well on the weekend, but I thought Dearden played better, and DCE didn't do an awful lot in Origin, did he? So it's a big call.
Well, Billy is going to have the biggest kahunas if he doesn't select DCE. But I almost think he cannot not select Dearden as the halfback. I think it's almost impossible to not have Dearden. We actually looked more likely to score when Dearden came on the field. I thought we looked a bit quicker, we looked a bit faster in attack. Yep. So he's going to have some big, as I said, kahunas to not pick DCE. I think he probably will go with Cherry Evans, but I think Dearden should be the 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it smacks of a panic move picking Dearden, but I think they're at the stage where they have to panic. So if you want to win the series, you play Dearden. If you want to look like a loyal Queensland coach, you pick DC and you lose. So I'm sure that's what's weighing on his mind.
I'm going to go out on a whim, guys. I'm going to say that Billy Slater makes one of the biggest calls of his coaching career, ditches DC completely, goes into Origin retirement, and it's a changing of the guard completely for Queensland.
I could see
makes that call, and I feel sorry for Daly Cherry Evans because, and no player's bigger than the game or bigger than the jersey, but I just think it's an unfortunate way for him to potentially bow out of a fantastic Origin career if that's the way that Billy goes.
Oh, but Queensland have had some players that have had that. I remember Ashley Harrison. He was overlooked for one game for Corey Parker because Corey Parker was just really in great form at the time. Nate Miles, I think, was overlooked for an Origin sort of at the end of his career.
He's the captain too, bear in mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive call. I wouldn't be surprised either way. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't sit here and if I saw the team and DCE was there, I wouldn't go, oh, my God, they've picked him again.
Well, let's face it. If he wasn't the player that he was, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, when you pick these teams, you got to look at the opposition and what they're thinking. And I think the Blues would be very happy for DCE to be in there again. They handled him perfectly in game one. And it's the same rule with Terrell May. I think the Queenslanders were very relieved he wasn't there. And for that reason alone, I would have picked him.
Yeah. You want to make the other team uncomfortable, don't you, really?
Exactly.
You know, that's part of the selection, right? So, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. I feel like there's probably some other players for Queensland that need to probably go before DCE, though.
Yeah. What? Just before we dive into that, quick shout out to our sponsors, High Caliber Racing, Create, and Grip Star Socks. Thanks heaps for your support, guys, throughout this season. We couldn't do this podcast without you, so really appreciate it. If anyone hasn't seen the Grip Star Socks discount code, use Nostra30. I know we've had heaps of messages off air about people taking advantage of that, which is great to see. So get amongst that while you can. Now, Dicko, you mentioned players outside DCE that should go. Let's be ruthless, mate. Who are they and who's going to replace them?
Geez, you've put me on the spot here. Mo Fodawaker would be one for me. Four runs for 39 meters. Now that is for a front rower in an Origin game. I think that's pretty unacceptable personally.
Borderline embarrassing, really.
Yep. I thought Queensland have got to figure it. I actually thought Jeremiah Nanai played his best Origin. I thought he was the most dangerous Queenslander on the field. Queensland have to do something with their back row with Ruben Cotter. I think Ruben Cotter's probably safe in terms of in the 17, but he's not an edge back rower, I don't think. He either plays in the middle or he plays off the bench.
Well, if you're picking an Origin team, which is the best of the best, you don't have Ruben Cotter starting on the edge.
I wouldn't have thought so. No. So if you were to drop Mo Fodawaker, I'd probably push Paddy Carrigan up into the front row and then maybe Ruben at 13. I'd think about playing Kurt Mann in the 17. I really would. I think he's a great versatile player that would really trouble New South Wales. Big men in the middle.
I think we just need goers, don't you think? We just need people that want to go in there and have a dig.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I thought they lacked plenty of physicality and purpose. I think
another guy who's struggling, Ruben Cotter, and I'm a big fan of his. I thought the last 2 years he's been one of the best forwards in the game. But for the Cowboys and for Queensland, he's just gone down a peg this year. I don't know if he's carrying an injury or what the story is, but he didn't do much.
Well, Val Holmes, Molly, is another one that I think it's a bit of a watch on because, I mean, I personally am a big Val fan, but he has an error in him always coming out of trouble. I didn't think he had his best game, but then he came out for the Dragons on, when was it, Friday night, and I thought he was one of their better players.
Yeah, but he was playing the Knights. Let's not forget that.
But, I think it's a bit of a watch on there. I think he's under pressure. You got Selwyn Cobbo. You'll have Murray Taulagi fit. So,
Yeah.
and I reckon
Reed Marnie?
I don't think Reed Marnie. No.
I don't even think he's going to make the Bulldogs team this weekend. How can you put Queensland?
Well, the Bulldogs are happy to let him go. That tells you something, doesn't it?
Yeah, because we're going to dive into a little bit of 100% footy chat soon. But last night on the panel, Gus said I'd be putting Reed Marnie in the Queensland side. Now, I'm sorry, but if Gus comes out on that panel and says that, and then the Bulldogs don't pick him this weekend or have him on the bench, that is...
Mate, haven't you been listening to Gus for the last 3 weeks? He's full of it.
Oh, well, if I was Reed Marnie, I would lose my shit.
Mate, he's full of it. He's absolutely... And I know Molly knows him, but geez. Gus is just speaking...
This is a colleague of mine you're talking about at Channel 9. How dare you?
I mean, come on. We all know he's playing everyone for fools.
Could it happen, though? Could it happen?
What, Reed Marnie not playing?
No, both. Could Reed Marnie actually squeeze his way into a starting lineup bully pest role with Grant coming off the bench and then not get selected for the Dogs?
Well, Molly, I know you love your stats. I don't know whether you actually know this. I think I've told Dizz about this, but Harry Grant has never won an Origin while starting.
Yeah, I saw that. It stunned me because I really rate Harry Grant. But didn't he have a shocker for
shocking, mate.
For Queensland, and he hasn't been all that great for
I would say that he almost destroyed on 3 or 4 occasions either momentum that we had or gave New South Wales instantaneous momentum as a result of his decision-making or errors.
He was short of a gallop, let's face it. He was short of a big gallop. I think if Ben Hunt was fit, I reckon Hunt would have been the starting 9 and Grant would have come off the bench. I reckon. Which begs the question, what's going to happen next game? Because Hunt won't be fit. So do they go Reed Marnie, someone to just really dog it up for 20 minutes and then get Harry Grant on?
He has a choice, mate. Like, if he puts out that same team on paper, we're going to get poleaxed.
Yeah, I don't know whether you can play 2 hookers, though. They're 2 genuine hookers. I don't know whether you can do that.
No, but I mean, like, in making changes, I just don't think...
you got to make changes. You got to make changes. So the
players... defended the team after full time and said, I don't think it's a personnel thing, but that's a load of bollocks.
Yeah, well, some players, I reckon, Cobbo, you talk about Tuolangi, Francis Molo from the Dolphins, if he's fit, he could potentially add a bit of mongrel and a bit of aggression. Kurt Mann would have to come into the equation as a utility if Tom Dearden plays. I loved Robert Toyer. I thought his debut, I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought his debut game I thought he did an admirable job on Latrell. I reckon if you're a neutral fan, I know Latrell set up that really great try with a pass. I reckon you'd almost give the honours to both of them. I reckon, at the end of the game, I thought he worried Latrell a little bit in attack, and I thought Latrell worried him a little bit. Latrell made a couple of errors. Toya, I thought, held his own defensively and physically. So I thought that's a player that Queensland have found, I reckon. So he's worth persisting with. I don't know what you boys
Yeah, and let's
thought.
not forget he's a 10-game NRL player. I think he's still a teenager. So outstanding performance, really, and will only get better.
Yeah, and backed it up more importantly on Sunday night against the Raiders. I thought he was one of the Roosters' best there. Sort of got him back into the game there at the end. So,
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, all our questions are going to be asked. We've still got a round of footy to get through, and we're going to know early next week what the teams are. But I think you'll find some changes for sure.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, guys, another little personnel conundrum that sits with a team that had an awesome performance on the weekend. Manly Seagulls, Turbo versus Lehigh Hopewadi. Now, breaking news, Turbo is set to be rested again this weekend. So
yeah, they don't lose a lot, do they, with Lehigh? I had him in my team of the week as the best fullback, and we've got a hot array of fullbacks, but he was as good as anyone. He's just playing the house down.
did you say they look a better
He
team?
was a Queenslander.
Lehigh?
Is he a Queenslander, Lehigh?
He
Nah,
might be. He
Probably
went on holidays on the Gold Coast last year.
no. His brother was Will, isn't he? Will played for New South Wales. I mean,
Yeah,
not
well,
anything these days.
We
but-
know how the Queenslanders can bend the rules.
Where's Tino born again?
Where's Greg Inglis born?
Dear. Yeah, look, Lehigh, fantastic player on the wing. Obviously, his preferred position is a fullback. If Turbo and Lehigh are fit, where should they both play?
Well,
If
is
you gotta-
Turbo injury more significant than what they're sort of letting on? Like, or is it just a luxury that they have in terms
Well, I mean,
of
it must be because they've got a bye next weekend. I'm pretty sure.
so they've obviously seen it as an opportunity. We rest him, we get the bye as well, so we get 2 weeks. But they're in
And
the
they're playing the Knights,
They
aren't they?
play next weekend as well. They play
Yeah,
the
they play
Knights and then the Titans, so it's not like they've got hard.
Well, I think they've made an executive decision that they can beat the Knights without Turbo, and it's probably a fair call, and give him one more week to get himself right.
Yeah, but in terms of, you know what, I actually think they would be a better footy team
Mhm.
if Lehigh played fullback and Tom played in the centres. I reckon they would be a more dangerous team if that was the case. And you would give Tom Travojevic a bit of a license like he has before when he's played for New South Wales to roam and sort of go wherever he wants, wherever he sees an opportunity. I reckon if I was playing them and I was an opposition coach, I'd be more worried if that was the case as opposed to Lehigh out on the wing, Turbo at fullback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
That's
Yeah.
my thought.
Turbo at his best, I would have at fullback, but he is struggling. You know, it's sad, but it's no secret. His body's letting him down, and so in the centre at least he has to run less, a little bit less involvement. It could work.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Now, in the coaching, we're going to change direction here a little bit. Coaching situations. Molly, Brad Arthur, potentially might end up at the Titans. There was thoughts that he might be, well, it looked like he was a shoo-in for the Perth Bears role, but that almost looks like Mal Meninga's going to be announced in the next couple of days. We're about to post something today. And it begs the question of Cameron Smith potentially moving into the Australian coach role, but we're hearing that Brad Arthur might be on the Titans' radar.
Yeah, that's the mail I'm getting. His manager Chris Orr lives on the Goldie. He's pretty close to the Titans. Brad wants to come home. Desi, you look at his record at the Titans. It just hasn't been great. He's had 2-3 years there to get him right. It just hasn't happened. So I think they're ready for a change, and he seems the logical one. He bowed out of the NRL with a lot of grace, I thought, after 10 years at Para. It wasn't the coach leaving in disgrace that we often see. And he's done all right in the UK. So he seems the logical next cab off the rank, shall we say. Well, whether it's there, whether it's at another club, I don't know. But I think we've got a few clubs that could be looking at changing coaches over the next few months.
Are we surprised that a coach hasn't been canned already, Molly? You reckon? We're round
Well, a lot of
13.
it comes down the finances, doesn't it? We keep hearing that if the Knights got rid of Adam O'Brien, they'd have to pay him out a fortune because for some reason they extended him for a couple of years. I think ideally they know that it's just not working up there. They're an embarrassment, like they're almost as bad as your Broncos. So.
Oh, there it is.
Had to throw it in there.
Well, guys, 7 times out of 12 games, they have not scored a point in the first round. I think no one's done that since 1908, the first half, sorry. So they're just giving rival teams a heads-up start. They're obviously not going on out there with their game heads on, and I feel for the Knights fans because they just dish up rubbish in attack. Jackson Hastings is the best halfback in the club, but he's off. To save his career, I think O'Brien's just got to bite the bullet and throw him in and see what happens because the halves he's playing are creating nothing.
Well, the scariest thing is they've won 4 games.
Yeah.
And they've won as many games as Penrith, and as bad as the Broncos are going, they're still beating Penrith.
Yeah.
Like, what does that say about either how close the competition is, or is it just honestly, some of the games have been so close though. Like, I had a look at some of the Broncos game, like Dragons as an example. They arguably should have won that game, only lost by a handful of points. The Warriors, poor discipline there sort of cost them in the end. Like, they're not far off. And if they had won both of those games, all of a sudden they're, sitting 5th or 6th. Like, that's how tight the comp is. I think Penrith were last. They won on the weekend and they're 3 points outside the 8.
Mate, if the Dolphins, the Broncos, and the Roosters, or the Roosters have got a bye. So if the Dolphins and the Broncos lose this week and Newcastle, Parramatta, and the Titans win, they're equal last.
Yeah. I mean, I can't see that happening.
Oh, Penrith winning as well. But you know what I mean? Like, this is how close the comp is. The comp, it's ridiculous.
I've never seen a comp this close at the halfway mark where the team on bottom wins 2 games and they'll be in the 8. It's just bizarre.
Well, yeah, you're right. Broncos win this week. They could go into the 8. Brisbane lose. They could be equal last. How does that work?
And the Broncos run is not too easy. They play the Sharks and the Bulldogs.
It never is, mate.
And I mean, look, they play the Titans and they have a bye, and they have the Titans and another bye. So, there's some points there. But it's certainly going to be interesting the next couple of weeks.
Titans beat the Broncos
Is
twice
Maguire
last
in
year.
trouble?
No, you always get a first-year honeymoon. I can't remember a coach who's been sacked in his first year. They give you one bad year, but he's going to have to win some games next year, or the knives will be out for sure.
He's not in trouble, but the drums are beating, and he needs to silence them quickly. But at some point in time, the Broncos were criticised last year because Kevy was too lax as a coach. Now they're saying Maguire's too hard as a coach. Anthony Seabold was too tactical as a coach. So at some point, as I said to you before we came on and started recording,
that's the players.
The players have to take ownership of performance, right? And it's to do with all the teams. It's not, but as Molly says, you can't sack 30 players. But I get that. But at some point, the players have to take ownership. They want all the money and all the great things that comes with the coin that they get and the contracts that they get. But again, at some point in time, you've got to perform. And the onus is on you to get the best out of yourself.
It comes down to their character, right? And this is a real test of character. You only get your character tested in the tough times. And, Penrith are going through that right now. But not once has anyone questioned Penrith's character or questioned Ivan Cleary. So what's the difference there?
I think the Panthers have been ravaged, haven't they? Like, every year the scavengers come and pick at the bones. This year they really lost 3 of their guns, and I think it's finally caught up with them. And I still see them making the
But there's
8.
actually excuses for Penrith, whereas Broncos roster's red hot, ready to go. And
It is. It's full of Origin players, full of Test players, and the Broncos aren't just getting beat like Penrith are getting beat. They're getting lapped, and it's embarrassing.
See, I'm not sold on that. That sort of chat that the Broncos rosters. I don't see it. Like I can't understand how people go they're red hot. They've had 1 Origin player. Or 2, sorry, with Payne Haas with New South Wales. So they've got 2 Origin players. Yeah, they've got some Test players. But if you look at the roster, it's very imbalanced. They've got about 48 hookers on their roster. They've got 2 back rowers. No, seriously. And you got to ask the question, have the worst decision Brisbane made in the last 2 years, apart from Herbie Farnworth and Tom Flegler and that, let's remove that, right? That was a bidding war and they lost. It was moving Kurt Capewell on and putting all their eggs in the basket of Brendan Piakura, who hasn't got better in 3 years. So that's development, right?
Probably going backwards.
Him, you talk about Dean Mariner, you talk about some other of the guys that are the next gen, they haven't got better. And that's Brisbane's issue. They've got 4 or 5 absolute guns that perform every week. But they've got nothing in between them and the bit parters that are down there just making up the numbers, which is where
Can
the
you
rest
tell
of
me who the 4 or 5 guns who are performing every week? Because I've missed them.
Well, you got Haas. When
I'll
I
give
talk
you
about
Payne
that,
Haas.
Carrigan. Tony Staggs has been off, but Reynolds has been off, but Reece Walsh when he's what's the name when he's playing. So
you've given me 2.
I tell you what's disappointing. Their best player in the last 2 weeks has been Ezra Mam.
I agree. I agree.
That's
I thought he was
but also really disappointing.
The first week he was. I thought at Brookie, the crowd got to him a bit. He made a few errors. Yeah, he scored a nice try. Missed 5 tackles. I thought he wasn't as good as his first week, which was a spectacular return. And he's going to have to get used to this crowd booing.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone saw the, game or watched it as intently as I did, but the moment Payne Haas, I think it was his first or second touch, he dropped it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And his reaction,
you don't see that very
dropping
often.
the ball, was like, this is like, 1, he never really drops it.
Yeah.
And 2, just the reaction to that. It was almost like, when the chips are down and you try a little bit too hard and then, all of a sudden your best player, does something wrong and you go, oh shit, if he's done it, where we go to now? You know what I mean? Like,
all the little things going wrong. I remember the Broncos challenge was one of the stupidest challenges, and challenges are really important, and they just threw it away early. Was for raking the ball in a tackle, and one of the guys, might have been Corey Jensen, I can't remember who, but clearly raked it. He should have said to the captain, no, don't challenge. But players just don't take accountability these days.
Well, it's the as you said, Mo, it's the little 1%ers like Jesse Arthurs. Dive on a ball, for God's sake. Trying to bat it 5 meters back on the dead ball line. Dive on it. I think there was 2 or 3 forward passes from dummy half. I mean,
momentum's too critical now, isn't it?
But that's schoolboy era. That's not even schoolboy era. That's like under 10s era. You know what I mean? That's stuff that you can be better at. Your 1%ers. You can be better at that. You can train hard for that. And they're just not. They're just a dumb football team.
Yeah, they need
and they're out of confidence. So much of footy is confidence, momentum, and they're 0% at both at the moment, and need a really good win to turn things around. And
just cement and some mirror looking.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what has hurt too is, and you may have overlooked this, but Walsh is injured, and Cobbo was not the answer at fullback, I don't believe, and either is Jesse Arthurs, and that Latrell Siegwalt is a bit too young. They're really missing Hayes Perham, who did his ACL in a preseason game, who's played a bit of first grade and could have filled in for Walsh, I think.
Is Walsh back this week?
He's 50-50.
He's 50-50. But let's not forget, he wasn't setting the world on fire either, as good a player as he is. was making a lot
He
of
was missing his
mistakes.
buddy man, but now he's back. They might be ready
Yeah.
to rock and roll.
Anyway.
Anyway, let's dive into the fixtures. So the Knights versus the Seagulls. Now, can we see the Knights actually winning a game?
Aren't they at
No.
home?
I had a long think about it. No.
Yeah, I'm glad it took you a while to think about that one.
So Kalen Ponga will play though, I think, in this. Is that
Yeah,
what
surely.
mail we're getting?
Well, I think he was wanting to play last week. And like, this is just baffling. Like, your best player wants to play. I don't think he was injured or carrying an injury. He actually tried very hard for Queensland. And Adam O'Brien went, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually applauded O'Brien for this, and I'm not a fan of his, but he put the players' welfare ahead of his own career because he's battling to save his career. Apparently, he had a calf injury leading into Origin, so he was struggling a little bit, and he just thought with a Thursday game and another Thursday game following up from Origin, it just would have been too hard. So maybe we'll see the best of Ponga this week because it's been a while since he's made a break. He really hasn't looked much, but then his halves haven't been creating anything for him, giving him any
I think
time or
Gamble's injured
space.
now too. As well.
Gamble's got a broken something, thumb or something, I think. Yeah.
Maybe.
But I think Ponga also, Molly, I think I read somewhere where he may have picked up a bit of an ankle knock in Origin, and that was enough for O'Brien, as you said, to sort of say, nah, we're just not going to risk it. I think he could have played, but I'm just saying I think he picked up a bit of an ankle knock as well.
So it's going to be Cogger at 7, Sharp at 6, and Ponga at fullback. Is that going to?
No.
Is it the same merry-go-round that we've been watching?
Yeah,
Manly
and
will
they're
win this.
three fairly decent players, but they can't score a point between them. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, it's not good.
I love your summation, Molly. I love it of the Knights.
Lock in Manly because the Knights are hopeless is basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's pretty good logic, but the way this comp's going, the Knights will win by 30.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
right.
anyone
That's
in
right.
the NRL Nostradamus comps better be careful because Dizz is coming for you.
Mate, you know,
He's on the climb.
You
He's
know
on the
chance.
climb. Storm versus Cowboys. Harry Grant will obviously come back into fray here. You think Xavier Coates as well. The Cowboys, I don't know about the Cowboys. They had that game sewn up on the weekend. How the Tigers got within, they nearly won it. The
They
Tigers
did.
really came and won. And
How are the
Another
Cowboys?
5 minutes, I reckon they were home.
How are they 6th, the Cowboys? Can somebody tell me that?
yeah, well,
Mm.
two wins for the Broncos, and they'll be 6th too.
Well, yeah. I'm going Storm confidently, actually, Storm. I didn't think the Storm were great last week against the Titans, I must admit. And I think Bellamy, I don't think he's happy with the way Melbourne are going, I must admit. And I think the Storm will win this convincingly.
Yeah.
Because I was about to say exactly the same. I've been thinking, and the bookies are thinking all along that the Storm are the team to beat, but they did not look good last week and
they
made
didn't.
a lot of errors that were very unstorm-like. Let the opposition in for a couple of soft tries. It was not a Storm-like performance, and they're not the dominant team that the Storm have been over the last few years, as shown by their position on the ladder. Normally, coming into Origin, they're about 4 points clear of the field. Well, they're right in the log jam with the rest of them.
I reckon Jerome Hughes has been a bit off.
I think they've all been a bit off, apart from Pappenhausen, mate, to be honest with you. As I said, I don't think they've played anywhere near Melbourne Storm footy.
Yeah. And I think they're trying to not be predictable and not go to Pappenhausen as much in attack.
Yep.
I think they just need to keep smashing Pappy. Just keep giving Pappy the ball because he's the one doing everything.
Well, he is carving it up at the moment, isn't he? Yeah, you're right.
Him and Coates. Coates is killing it every time
Coates,
he
great
gets
player.
the ball. Yeah.
I agree with you, Dicko. I think the Storm will win this by about 20 or 30.
Yeah, it's Friday night. It's in Melbourne. Yeah, I fear for the Cowboys here if they don't come ready to play, for sure.
Now, this next game's an interesting one. Dolphins versus the Dragons. It's obviously at, I don't know if it's at Suncorp.
It's at Suncorp. It's at
Suncorp?
Suncorp. Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think this is a flip of the coin.
So Marshall King, I think, will play, and Max Plath is close for the Dolphins. The Dragons do have a good record at Suncorp Stadium of late.
Yes.
So, but I will go with the home team. I'll go
That
with the
against the
Dolphins here.
Broncos though versus against the Dolphins.
Mate, it's against shit. But no, I'll go the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins will win this. I think it'll be close. It could be one of Molly's golden pointers, I reckon.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd put a lot of it around Marshall King. I think he's one of the elite hookers in the comp. If he plays, Dolphins should get the money.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm locking in Dolphins. So I must admit, I wasn't expecting it to be a three-way Dolphins victory on this little panel. I thought there would have been a little bit of a mix and mash there, but yeah, lock in the Dolphins.
Lock in the Dolphins.
The Dragons are in the top 8. That's just bizarre. They're not a good side. They are not a good side.
Mate, there's about 3 teams in the top 8 that aren't good sides, but the comp's that close.
Very,
Next.
very, very true.
Who's up
Now,
next?
this next one's going to be interesting and arguably possibly one of the matches of the round. Sharks versus the Warriors. Warriors, obviously, Mitch Barnett's injured. Who's going to be the man that steps up there? Obviously, it's probably going to be Jackson Ford, but yeah, big shoes to fill, obviously. Their enforcer, one of their co-captains, the Sharks back at Shark Park, or PointsBet Stadium.
Yeah, well, they're coming off that horrendous performance against the Roosters, the Sharks. So they'll have a bit of a point to prove. And the Warriors just seem to keep getting it done.
They're winning, not by much, though.
No, they're winning.
They're winning.
I feel like a loss is coming for the Warriors. So I'm going to lock in the Sharks here. I just feel like they were lucky. I reckon they were lucky on the weekend, the Warriors, to get away with that.
Sharks convincingly. You reckon Warriors are ready? Are they ripe for the picking this
I
week?
reckon they're right for the picking. I think the Warriors are too good of a team to get hammered, but I do think the Sharks will win comfortably enough at home.
Yep. Molly?
I think it's one of my classic Golden Point games, this one.
Golden Point, Shark Park. Let's go.
Neither team have really grabbed me this year as far as consistency goes. When they're good, they're good. When they're bad, they're pretty ordinary. So it's just who shows up. Barnett's a big loss. Games like this, when you got to toss a coin, I go to the home team. So Sharkies, but not confidently.
Yeah, the Roosters have got a bye this weekend as well, just slightly off topic. Sam Walker due to make his comeback. Exciting times for the Chooks. New South Wales Cup, so he might be back in action as early as next week, I'm hearing.
Okay.
For the first grade side. Could he be DCE's replacement?
No.
Too early.
Way too early.
Next year.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe game 3 if they're really desperate.
If we're lost by 40.
Yeah, well, very, very possible. Now, Saturday night footy, Suncorp Stadium, Broncos, Titans, Adam Reynolds' 300th game. Shout out to A-Ray. Massive achievement there.
This also doubles as the blackout game for the Broncos. They'll raise.
What is that game?
Yeah, so they'll be in their full black kit that they released the other week, where they're raising awareness for mental health and whatnot. So if anyone's interested, jump on their website and listen on their socials for way I go about donating some money to some great causes.
Jersey sold out within 48 hours or something.
Yeah, I had a few mates that couldn't get them, and then they did another release, and I think they were sold out within within an hour or half an hour or something. But Molly, I reckon the Titans are your bet of the week here at $3.18 to cause an upset over the Broncos. I
don't like putting money on the Titans. Call me silly, but
you wouldn't be very wealthy. Put it that way.
But no, I think. Oh, I mean, I picked Brisbane last week and they were woeful.
So
I don't know.
You talked me into it.
Well, this concerns me because the Titans beat the Broncos twice last year, and there's been a bit of talk yesterday about Payne Haas and his brother Cleese, and the way their contracts have lined up and situated. So, there is mail that those two want to play with each other at some point. So take that as you will. I don't know whether you've heard that, Molly, but the manager came out yesterday and said that their contracts, the way they've done them, they both got the same manager, obviously, have sort of lined up. And I think the only place that will happen will be at Brisbane. So don't be surprised if Cleese Haas is chased by the Broncos when he's off contract, because he does have a clause in the final year, I believe, of his contract that he can get out.
Yeah.
But Reece Walsh 50-50 for this game. Oh, I don't know. Someone else.
I'd be surprised if he played. I think when
This reeks of last year, Dicko, doesn't it? Like
I think
Broncos
Reece.
chips were down, and everyone thought, okay, they're playing the Titans. I think they got belted by the Bulldogs maybe the week prior last year. Played against the Titans. Surely they bounce back here, and then the Titans belted them. I want to say that the Broncos are going to win and do this not comfortably, but
Yeah.
they just need to win.
So
They just
I'm
need to win.
I'm going to lock in the
I think they will.
Broncos because I think if they can't get up for Adam Reynolds 300, who's the captain of the club, they're a joke, an absolute joke of a team. So for that reason, Saturday night at home, I think they'll win.
If they lose this, they're gone. Not making the 8. I'm saying that right now.
Yeah.
haven't we said that about 4 times already this year?
And for about 4 different teams,
The
Molly, I reckon.
comp's too close, but Dad said if they lose this, they're gone.
Yeah, but as you said, the comp's close, mate. So they could win 2 more games and they could be close.
Not if they lose this. They're in disarray if they lose this.
Well,
Like
they're in
they have
disarray
to,
now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Let's face it.
they have to win it.
I'm tipping the Bronx. I have to tip the Bronx. I go for them.
Well, if they can't beat the Titans, they're not going to beat the Bulldogs.
Well, they'd have beaten the
Certainly not
Bulldogs.
gonna beat the Sharks.
We flogged the Bulldogs.
Yeah, well.
Mate, we're still in it. Let's. I've tipped the Bronx. The Bronx by 30.
Oh, hey!
Bronx and Golden Point for me.
Point. Well, I'm going the Bronx as well. I reckon they'll get the job done for A-Ray. Now, another milestone game, Sunday, Raiders, Rabbitohs. Josh Papali'i becomes the highest cap Raider ever, surpassing Jared Croker. Huge, absolutely huge milestone. I think it's 319 games. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the number. Raiders are flying. If I was to lock in a team to win the grand final, I'd lock them in right now.
Yeah, I find it hard to disagree. I think the Bulldogs have been great, but I think the Raiders, who incidentally have won more games than the Bulldogs, despite the Bulldogs being on top of the ladder just with the bye situation, I think they've been the story of the year. I mean, Ricky's got
nearly 100 more points.
Yeah, Ricky's got a ragtag bunch of blokes. He hasn't got too many superstars there. Just real goers who rip and tear, the likes of Hudson Young, Corey Horsburgh, who, by the way, can't get a run for Queensland. Like, why he's not in the Queensland team is a whole different story. But, they just get out there and have a go. The fans get right behind them. And down there, it's become a real fortress. So, Raiders for me.
Yeah, this is going to be a real slugfest, I reckon, because both these teams are really great defensively and really sort of dogged in terms of the points that they sort of concede. The Rabbitohs, I think, are going okay at the moment. They're not setting the world on fire, but they're just playing typical Wayne Bennett footy, so they'll be up for this, no doubt. The Raiders are they're hard to get a read on because I don't think they're playing like the best footy of anyone, but they're just winning and they're winning comfortably. I
think they had KO Weeks. He's 21, Owen Paddy 19s.
But it's a couple of moments of brilliance by a few players, and then all of a sudden the full-time whistle's blown and they're in front. You know what I mean? So they're going great in terms of.
And let's not forget they had Fogarty a last-minute withdrawal against the Roosters.
Yeah, which Buddy
I put all my money
tip.
on the Roosters then, and they never looked like winning. So
I think the Raiders will win this too, Dizz, by the way. Yeah,
not just this year. They look good for the next few years.
Yeah. I think the Raiders will win this at home. It's Sunday Arvo.
And again, if you can't get up for Josh Papali'i's,
yeah,
milestone match, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
What I will point out, gents, which is again a little bit off the cuff here, the Knights are the 3rd best defensive team in the comp.
Which just shows you how bad their attack is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. They got the worst attack by far. But did you think that they had the 3rd best defense?
No, that shocks me.
No.
3rd best.
No.
That's incredible.
Mate, this whole competition's baffling. How
Mm.
close it is, where some of the teams are sitting. So
Yeah.
you know, it's Penrith are what 15th. That's baffling. But
Yeah,
anyway,
they got better defense than the Warriors. That's just remarkable. Anyways, moving right along. Tigers and the Panthers. Geez, I'd want to hope that Penrith win this and win this well. The Tigers are garbage as far as I'm concerned. They've done okay this year, but the last few weeks they've been rubbish. I mean,
They were pretty good for
yeah,
14 minutes last week in their defence.
yeah, I don't think Penrith will let them do that.
oh, the shackles are off the Tigers now. The shackles are gone. No, seriously, the Galvin thing's gone. It's done.
Yeah,
He's
it's done.
out of there.
Yeah.
There's nothing holding him now.
And they do have some very good strike players. I think Appy's the most dangerous hooker in the comp now. Grant's gone off. I'm a real fan of Buller, the fullback, not just because he got my multi home with that late try the other day, but he's as good as any fullback going around. Stafford Toa, isn't he killing it? Two tries.
Yeah.
And yeah, Galvin's
Like
gone.
14
but,
tackle
They've got some real strike power, the Tigers, but they do silly things and they let in tries.
They've also got a number 7 who this is the reason why, obviously money, but this is one of the reasons why he left for this moment, I reckon, to tell everyone he'll set himself for this.
This is going to be big. Yeah.
Because he'll want to show everyone, I reckon, that it wasn't just a one-man band at the Panthers with the 4 premierships. He had a fair bit of say in how successful they were. So I'm going to tip the Panthers, but I think this will be really close.
Yep, I echo those thoughts. Golden point.
I'm going to be biased and say Penrith by 20 or more.
Oh, yeah, righto. Next.
Bulldogs versus Eels. Now, this is a juicy one. Obviously, Lockie Galvin is at the Bulldogs now.
Available.
Confirmed that he's in the 17, where he's going to be.
He won't be in the 13, I'm hearing. I'm hearing bench.
Okay. Bench, interesting.
Which is probably a good way to start, ease him into it, give him 20, 30 minutes at some stage.
And he's playing against the team that he was potentially going to end up at as well.
Yeah.
In this matchup. Did anyone see the Galvin interview?
Yeah, I saw it. I listened to it.
What was everyone's thoughts on that one? Was that just real briefly?
I thought he handled himself okay, but of course, all the best, the juiciest questions he didn't answer for legal reasons. So, you know, as far as what he thought of the Tigers, what he thought of Benji, other than sugarcoating it, saying, yeah, everything was fine and sweet, and, you know, the real reasons why he left, he didn't really touch on because of these so-called legal restraints and everything. So it was interesting.
I'm a bit like Molly. I sort of thought he handled himself all right, but I really felt like his responses were scripted. I felt like
they were written for him, and we know who pulls the strings with Lachlan Galvin, his manager,
and
as with most players, and I'm sure they ran through it. They probably got a list of questions because he's a control freak, Mr. Moses. So, you know.
I must admit, I don't like what's been done. But I tend to disagree a little bit there. I honestly think he held the interview with the utmost confidence, and I think that would have pissed a few people off, particularly Tigers fans.
I'm not saying he didn't hold the interview with confidence. I'm just saying that his answers were very scripted, and I guarantee you that the answers wouldn't have come from him. I guarantee that.
Yeah.
I guarantee that.
Well, I don't think he knew what questions were being asked. I mean, he would have known an idea of obviously what was going to get asked, so he knew what to reply. But I think he's just a confident young player who's pretty sure of what he wants in his career, and proof's going to be in the pudding over the next 2 to 3 years, particularly the back end of this year, and sort of what impact that has over the Dogs. And you're not going to see it this weekend if he's starting on the bench, but in those first few games where he does start, you're probably going to see, you know, whether or not it's the right move for him and the right move for the Dogs.
I mean, in what I will say to just finish this off is that he contradicted himself in saying that he enjoyed his time under Benji and all that, but he then went on and said that he felt like his game's going to get better under Seraldo. So I don't understand how you can say that's kind of contradicting yourself there. So, you know, I didn't agree with that necessarily. I thought that was a bit.
I think the part that was played down was exactly what Moley said. I reckon his relationship with his fellow playing group was tarnished and at a crossroads, and there was no choice but for him to leave. I think that's bigger than what he made it out to be.
Which is why you can't talk about it, because there's legal stuff, as Moley said, right? You can't talk about that stuff.
Yeah, you always sign a clause that you're not going to bag your previous employer or even talk about them. And he's probably fortunate that clause is there, because he didn't talk about it.
We all know what it's like to play team sports, and if you lose your own teammates, it's not a great place to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he sort of instigated that release.
Yeah, well, good luck to him. I mean, it's done now. He's got to where he wanted to be. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So
guys, look, in 3-4 months he could have a premiership under his belt. So or it could blow up in the Bulldogs' face. They could be a blowback when Sexton does get the knife, and he comes.
Tell you what was clear, that he's going to be the 7.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, there was one comment he made, Moley, that I don't know whether you listened to it, but he said that he genuinely hadn't met Gus or spoken to Gus since yesterday. The first time he spoke to him was yesterday.
That is true. Gus kept himself out of it. A lot of that was because of his Moses relationship. A lot of that was because Luke Vella, who's on the Bulldog staff, is very close to him. He coached him at school, and Seraldo's a good communicator, so he kept himself out of it, and it sort of creates less blowback on Gus. He's copped plenty as is, but he would have copped even more if we found out that they had dinner 2 weeks ago. So, smart move by Gus, and say what you like about him, he is a smart operator.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely. I mean, he's got his man. So
do the Dogs win this one, guys, against the? I got a little smoky feeling here about the Parramatta Eels.
I actually think the Parramatta have been going okay.
They're a chance, and they won the other week without Lomax and Moses.
Quite fortunate on the weekend.
So this is a public holiday in Sydney, isn't it? On this Monday. So
there'll be $10 tickets.
And massive crowd there'll be. There'll be, what, 50, 60,000, you think, at a course? So purely for that, I'm going to go the Bulldogs. But I think it's first versus 16th, but I reckon it'll be close. I reckon it will be close.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there'll be much in it. I won't say Golden Point, but I'll say Bulldogs by 6 points.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with Mole.
I could in second that. Bulldogs by 8. All right, guys. Been a pleasure. Lots to talk about. I'm sure next week we'll even bigger. Let's hope for minimal injuries this weekend. And another perfect round by the Nostra team. Let's see how we go.
Beautiful. Thanks,
Sounds
mate.
good.